You ever meet someone who just refuses to put two and two together, even when the calculator's doing the math for them? That's Molly. Molly could have solved a murder. Could've, should've, would've, but didn't. Because, well, it turns out survival sometimes beats justice, and self-deception is one hell of a defense mechanism. Welcome back to GM Bookshop. Today we're diving into a story that's part crime, part tragedy, and fully frustrating. This is What Molly Knew by Tim Keegan, a Caine Prize shortlisted story that will leave you shouting at your book like it's a soap opera character who's about to open the wrong door. So here's the plot. Molly is married to a man named Rollo. He's her second husband, the kind of man who drinks too much, disappears into bars, possibly frequents prostitutes, and, oh yeah, punches walls and people when he's drunk. Real winner. Molly, though, stays. Why? Because, as she puts it...
But what was she supposed to do? Move out and starve? Go and live in a shelter at her age?
It's the tragic logic of many women in abusive relationships. But things get worse. Molly has a daughter, Sarah. Sarah never liked Rollo, and honestly, given his behavior, who would? But Molly, instead of listening to her daughter, chalks it all up to jealousy.
A resentment of the speed with which her mother remarried.
As if Sarah's problem was bad manners, not bad men. Anyway, Sarah grows up, becomes a nurse, and marries Tommy Nobrega, a psychologist with Mozambican roots, ANC shirts, and just enough of an outsider's aura to make Rollo and Molly deeply uncomfortable. Molly disapproves of the marriage, and her relationship with Sarah takes a nosedive. Mother and daughter stop talking. Then, bam, Sarah is found dead, a bullet to the back of her head. Now you'd think, cue dramatic police investigation forensic team's shocking reveals. Nope, none of that here. Enter Inspector Duvenage, who does nothing useful, really. He sort of hovers around the story, acknowledges there's no evidence, no leads, and fades into the background like a detective in a dream sequence.
You didn't see any.
Meanwhile, Molly is convinced Tommy did it. Why, you might wonder? Well, he's not from around here. He's darker-skinned. He wears political shirts. He's just too smart. He stole her daughter's loyalty. Oh, and well, that's not all.
Who else had access to the third floor?
But there's no proof. Not a shred. That is, until Molly finds a letter. Not just any letter. A letter addressed to Rollo, buried under rotting grass. Written by Sarah 2 days before her murder. In it, Sarah warns Rollo to confess what he did to her when she was a child. She threatens to confront him in Molly's presence. And she demands that he ask for forgiveness so she could be free. Boom. That's it. That's your smoking gun. You'd think Molly would run straight to the police, right? Wrong. She burns it. She destroys the evidence.
Wait, hold on. Back it up.
Let me repeat that. The one piece of physical evidence that might explain Sarah's death is incinerated by the woman who called herself her mother. And here's where the story hits a nerve. Why would she do that? It's easy to write Molly off as weak or naive. And believe me, at some point in the story, I wanted to yell, "Get a grip, woman!" But it goes deeper. Molly isn't just blind, she's terrified. And she's dependent, financially, emotionally, psychologically. In her mind, exposing Rollo means losing everything. Not just her husband, but her house, her safety net, the last structure of control she has left.
I see.
Rollo, we come to learn, is a manipulative, violent, deeply disturbed man. He has no love for Sarah. In fact, he practically celebrates her death.
It was pretty clear he considered Sarah a hindrance and her death, well, a good riddance.
Which brings us to the title, What Molly Knew. She knew everything. Maybe not at the start, but by the end, she knew enough to stop it, enough to seek justice. But she didn't. And that silence, that complicity, it's damning. You'd think a crime story would have at least one character you could latch onto, someone to root for. Not here. Molly is the main focus, but she's infuriatingly passive. Initially, you pity her. But when she sacrifices truth to preserve her own fragile reality, sympathy fizzles. Sarah, the victim, never gets much of a voice. Tommy remains a mystery. Is he innocent? A manipulator? We don't know. Even Duvenage the inspector fades into irrelevance. Both viewpoints from which the story is told did not give much insight into what was unfurling. And that ambiguity is part of what makes the story so unsettling. There's no catharsis, no justice, just murky emotions, buried trauma, and people choosing silence over truth. The themes here are sharp as a knife. Let's unpack a few. Domestic abuse, not just physical, but psychological. The kind that traps women in cycles they can't easily break. Intergenerational trauma. Sarah tried to escape, but was haunted by her past. Her letter proves she was carrying childhood wounds, likely inflicted by Rollo. Racism and prejudice. Tommy is othered again and again. His identity is used against him, even though, honestly, there's no real evidence. And then there's silence. Sometimes it's complicity, sometimes it's survival, and sometimes, well, it's betrayal. And finally, what does it mean to know something but choose not to act? It actually made me think of Dean Koontz's False Memory, where psychological manipulation can turn people against their own best interests. Maybe Molly wasn't just scared. Maybe she was conditioned to believe she deserved Rollo, or that she just couldn't make it without him. What Molly knew is definitely not a comfortable read. It's not your typical thrilling detective story, and it's not some neat little moral tale either. It's messy, it's ambiguous, and honestly, it leaves a pretty bitter taste. And yet, it's real. That's the scary part. Molly's story may be fiction, but it mirrors the reality of so many women trapped in abuse, clinging to crumbs of security, watching the truth slip away, or, burning it themselves. It's a story that makes you angry, not entertained. But sometimes that's the point. Tim Keegan, the author of What Molly Knew, is not just a storyteller, he's a historian. Born in Cape Town in 1952, he studied at the University of Cape Town and earned a PhD in African history from the University of London. He taught at Wits and the University of the Western Cape before diving full-time into research and writing. His early work was academic, but around 2002, he began writing fiction, first casually, then with increasing commitment. What Molly Knew was first published in Bad Company, a crime anthology in 2008, and later featured in the 2011 Caine Prize anthology To See the Mountain. So what do you think? Was Molly just a tragic figure, or did she cross the line into enabler? Was justice ever possible in this story? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy these deep dives into African literature, especially the ones that challenge your comfort zone, hit that like button and subscribe. And remember, sometimes the hardest truth to face is what we already know. See you in the next video. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.